the room crashes, we're gonna have to reinstitute it anyway, so we may have to get our friend involved. Like if it totally crashes there. I mean, I can probably stay for the first, I want to say 15 minutes of it.
Yeah, I'm taking those.
Room crashes. We're gonna have to reinstitute it anyway, so we may have to get our friend involved. Like if it totally crashes there. I mean, I can probably stay for the first. And then we need to go in, disable chat because I don't care about this. What are you doing in here? Oh, did I leave this on? I did leave it on. It's like, why are we still picking up audio?
And then are down to Palomar. I think that one's connected. Is the podium one connected to the also?
It should be, yeah, let's check on it. That's not. So we go through and disable the live chat on it because what invariably happens is you'll get one idiot that wants to come in there and just, say something silly and then it becomes a whole thing and it's just nightmare. So we successfully tested audio. We know we're good from there.
We're gonna test the podium mic to see.
Yeah, go ahead. If you wanna, I'll be able to see if it's jumping there. Oh, is it? Should be open. Oh, this one?
This one too.
Hang on there.
Testing 1, 2, mic check, 1 test.
You know that other wireless using that, yeah?
Wireless 1, mic check, wireless 1, mic check.
No. If we were hearing an echo, I would be in panic mode. And you'll see the captions up there. They just asked to be turned on. Oh. You go.
So good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, good morning and welcome to the Deputy Chancellor Provost Candidate Forums. My name is Aaron Brown. I'm Vice Chancellor of Business and Financial Services and the Chair of the Search Committee. And I'm today's facilitator along with Gracie from Human Resources. As part of our district-wide search process, each of our colleges is hosting open forums with the 3 finalists for this important leadership position. These forums are being live streamed as well, so that those who cannot attend at least have the ability to participate and to hear directly from the candidates. After an extensive national search process facilitated by the Association of Community College Trustees, ACCT, the RCCD Search Committee carefully screened 40 applicants, conducted semi-finalist interviews, and forwarded 3 finalists for you to meet. The Chancellor will also be conducting the final interviews for each of them. In addition to these forums, the finalists will be meeting with constituency group leaders and the Chancellor's Cabinet to ensure a broad and inclusive process that reflects the voices of our entire district. Your participation today is essential. Your input is both valuable and important as the Chancellor reviews feedback and considers the perspectives of our community in making this critical leadership decision. Thank you for being here, for engaging in this process, and for helping us shape the future of our district. With that, I'll turn it over to Gracie to talk about the structure of the forum.
Okay, good morning. How's everybody doing? It's so good to see you all this early in the morning. We're very excited and happy to be here. So before we formally welcome Dr. Star Rivera-Lacey to Moreno Valley College, let me take a minute to review the ground rules for the public forum that we're going to have today. So we will ask the candidate to provide brief opening remarks, roughly about 3 to 4 minutes. We have 2 questions, general questions that have been prepared to facilitate or kick off this session. However, we did go around the room and provide index cards in addition to pens. So if you would like to ask a question, please write your question on a note card, and one of the room monitors, which we have our 2 fabulous individuals over here, Jonica Escobar and Leslie, will be able to pick up those note cards and bring them up to the stage on your behalf. And then roughly about 5 minutes before the end of the session, we'll ask the candidate to provide brief closing remarks. When you entered the room, a public comment forum card was given to you as well, and it is that paper. It does have the bio on the back. So we ask you to please complete it before you leave the room. That way we can go ahead and collect these. These forms will be placed in a confidential sealed envelope and delivered straight to the Chancellor's office to be included in their deliberations. Unfortunately, we will not accept any feedback forms submitted after the forum, so please ensure that you are jotting down your notes as we begin this session. So go ahead and have Vice Chancellor Brown come back up to introduce our first candidate. Thank you.
Okay, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Dr. Star Rivera-Lacey, who currently serves as the Superintendent President of Palomar College, leading one of California's largest single college districts. With more than 25 years in the community college system, she has driven major advancements in fiscal stability, instructional innovation, and equity-focused strategic planning. Her leadership has expanded workforce-aligned programs, modernized facilities, and embedded DEIA principles across campus operations. A first-generation college graduate and daughter of Salvadoran immigrants, Dr. Rivera-Lacey holds a Ph.D. in education from Claremont Graduate University and was named Women of the Year by California State Assembly District 76 in 2025. And with that, please come on up here, Dr. Rivera-Lacey.
Good morning, buenos días. Thank you, first of all, so much for coming and making the effort to be here. I know that you guys have emails that are waiting for you and appointments that are waiting for you. For the fact that you're here, thank you so much for the warm welcome. I felt especially at home this morning when I went in addition to coffee, they had fruit. But what really excited me was the tahini bottle. So I was like, I have found my people. So again, really, I'm just going to do a really brief introduction, give you an overview of who I am. And then I think we'll go ahead and start jumping into the questions, really to give you a sense of just not only my professional background, but I really would want you to get a sense of who I am and if I'm going to be a good fit for you, because I think it's really important that you understand what my value system is, you understand what my purpose is, and you understand what my why is, because that really informs my leadership and how I move through the world. So having said that, I still want to start with what really informs everything that I do really comes from being a low-income first-generation student that had the privilege of attending a community college. And I tell anybody who'll listen to me, if it wasn't for the CC, the PhD would never have been a reality. The reality is that so many of our community members are facing limited life choices as a circumstance of birth. And what the community college system does, it's the great equalizer. And I've seen it in my own life. At this moment in time, I have the privilege of being the superintendent president at Palomar College. I am the first Latino or Latina to serve in that role in the 79-year history of that institution. What's really important about that piece too is that is actually when my parents immigrated from El Salvador. It was Palomar Community College where they learned English. They took ESL classes, and little did they know, I had pictures of myself at Palomar College, like I'm like less than 2 years old. It's interesting because you can see one of the buildings in the back. And I think about their immigrant experience and all the sacrifice they made, because I'm sure it wasn't easy, but they made that sacrifice knowing, I don't even think they knew at the time that little girl that was there would have the privilege again of being the first Latino or Latina in the 79-year history. To give you a little bit of background when it comes to Palomar College, for those of you who are not familiar with Palomar, it's about 45 minutes north of San Diego. It's one of the largest community college districts as well as size. So our service area, get ready for this, is 2,500 square miles. I like to tell people that is bigger than the state of Delaware. And it's really diverse when it comes to that. But the beauty of that service area being so large, it has given me quite a bit of experience. So for example, when I say that I work with local politicians, state politicians, and national politicians, I work with over 50 legislators in order to put Palomar forward in the best light. So that's a lot of experience with that. You can also imagine what it takes to work with the community. I have 63 feeder high schools that come into our district. And so we have over 200 programs. We are a Hispanic serving institution with 52% of our students identifying as Latino and 76% that identify as ethnically diverse. In addition to that, we have 78% of our population, of our 29,000 students that receive some form of financial aid. Incorporated. There's about 1,600 employees. We have San Marcos, which is our flagship campus, but we also have Rancho Bernardo, Fallbrook, Escondido. In addition to that, we have classes in Camp Pendleton. So we have a little satellite out there in Camp Pendleton. And what I'm very, very proud of is that we also provide classes at our Vista Detention Facility to work with folks who are justice impacted, formerly incarcerated. And we also have started doing classes in Camp Pendleton at the Brig. So we serve a large veteran population, one of the largest next to San Diego State. So we do a lot of work with that. So in my own background, student support services and equity programs are what made a difference for me. So we're very intentional in making sure that our students have wraparound services. I am the proud product of EOPS and programs such as EOPS because I know that that truly gave me the footing in order for me to be successful. My academic background, again, I started at community college, went on to get a bachelor's degree from CSU San Marcos in liberal studies, went on to get a master's degree from San Diego State in education with an emphasis in counseling, more specifically multicultural competent counseling. Then I went on to get, let's see, where were my bachelor's, then I went master's degree, and then I got my Ph.D. In education at Claremont Graduate University, and my dissertation focus was on achievement, aspiration and achievement, and what is it that we need to do to support students in the community college system for them to be successful. Okay, so I did the educational background. Something else that I'm very privileged to be able to say that I have worked in both a multi-college district for about 20 years for San Diego Community College District. I actually have also sat in the different seats. I tell people I've been a community college student. I've been a classified professional. I have been a adjunct faculty. I have been tenured faculty. I've been in the classroom for over 20 years, and I still stay active in the classroom at this point in time. I still teach. I serve on dissertation committees, and I write curriculum because I think it's really important that I stay active in the classroom. I'm also a student. I am currently doing a certification at the University of San Diego for neurodiversity, trauma-informed approaches in order to really help with our students to be able to make sure that they're going to be successful. So again, I did middle management, did executive management. So I like that I've sat in the different perches in a multi-college system where I worked at the 3 different colleges and also for non-credit. And then when it comes to, I've been in a single college district for the past 5 years, and I report directly to a board of 5. So I feel like we probably should start getting to questions because I don't want to run. And I think some of this stuff will come throughout. I do want to make one more comment, and that very, very proud of the work that I've done when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. That is a point of pride for me. At the age of 18, I started working with migrant education. And if you look at my history, both my educational history and my work history, my commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion is not performative. It's something I believe in, and it's something that I value. I understand that nationally there are complex issues at this point in time, but I do believe that we need to stay purpose-driven and mission-focused. Now I'll turn to there, and I'm going to move this because that just kind of holding me back there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dr. Sar, I have your first question. So RCC, Riverside Community College District, has 3 distinct colleges with unique cultures. How would you balance district-wide alignment with the autonomy of each college?
I think the beauty of working in a multi-college district, like I did at San Diego Community College District, and then the fact that I was able to work at each of the different institutions, it was always very interesting to me because each of the institutions had such a unique population of students that it served. And what was the beauty in that, right, is that we had something for everybody and we had things that were really good fits. So one of the things that we did is that we made sure that each of the institutions had their own identity and were very, very clear that one size does not fit all. So when I went to the San Diego Community College District and I worked at the continuing ed, this is a really interesting, it's one of the largest non-credits, right, in the entire nation. and it has 7 campuses plus over 150 offsite locations. And each of those 7 campuses were also in different communities. So I was the first vice president of student services, and what I needed to do is create student services in each of those areas. And so what we did is that we really asked each of the centers, we went to the stakeholders, not only the employees that worked in the area, but we really asked the students and the community. So we went and asked students, we went to the community, and we said, what do you need in this community? And we built services and programs that were good in that area. So we really celebrated the differences, but what was really nice is that we always had a cohesive message of where we were trying to get to. So at the same time that we were all rowing in the same direction, we recognized the diversity and the importance of it. And when I talk about the diversity and how important it is, I like to think of a salad. Just follow me for a second, right? So, back in the day in the United States, we used to talk about the great melting pot, right? And we would throw onions, throw tomatoes, and just kind of, make it a big stew, and we just create a big soup. And then we moved into this idea of a tossed salad, right? So if I take a tomato and I stick it in a soup, right, it kind of it adds flavor, but it loses the integrity of the tomato. And so really moving into this idea of a salad where you can still see the tomato, pick out the tomato, love the tomato, it adds dimension to it, but it still retains its unique character. And I think what's really important that each of these institutions has a unique character, and it's really important to understand what the stakeholders and what the community really, really needs, but also having a bigger vision, which you do in your strategic plan, to be able to have a win-win. So.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you so much. So I have your next question. What is your experience working with faculty, specifically related to academic purview like curriculum?
Yeah. So as mentioned earlier, it's really important for me to identify as a faculty member because instruction is such a critical, important part of what it is that we do. And student services to support the success of those students. For me, it is important for me to stay in the classroom to understand some of the challenges that faculty are having. I understand in a very intimate way academic freedom. I also understand, issues of 10+1. At Palomar, we have 10+1+1. The sanctity of what happens in that classroom, how important it is, but also making sure that faculty have the resources that are necessary in order to be successful. So for example, one of the things that we're dealing with right now that I think is very timely is issues of artificial intelligence and how that is affecting our classrooms and the role of faculty. And then the other one, I'm doing some work right now with proctoring as well. So when it comes to faculty, the faculty voice is critical. And one thing that I pride myself that I think if you were to ask my colleagues at Palomar College, they understand that I recognize the sanctity of faculty, the importance of faculty, and working with faculty. So I have very positive relationships with Academic Senate. I have very positive relationship with our faculty unions as well, because I understand that working conditions are student learning conditions. And now more than ever, with the national climate that we're having, I think academic freedom and what happens in the classroom really needs to be defined in a way that protects and safeguards. So I also write curriculum. I knew that as a student services person, because I came up through counseling, that I would also need to not only speak student services, but I knew I needed to be able to speak instruction. And now I'll be able to, I speak human resources, and now I speak, bond, different business services. So I can't say enough about faculty, because when the students come to our institutions, they're coming to learn, and faculty are the ones that have almost the most interaction with our students, and we need to give them the resources needed so that they can do the good work.
Thank you. So you mentioned AI in your response, so let's switch gears and talk a little bit about AI. So How would you leverage AI-assisted support systems to improve student access and success across RCCD, while also ensuring data integrity and equitable outcomes?
Right. So I'm going to be real honest with you. I am of the era that I still print and highlight things. Right. So one of the things that I think is the first step is demystifying AI and seeing AI as a tool. I think sometimes when something's new to us, it may be a little difficult. But I think the reality is that when our students are more advanced in some areas with AI, we have an obligation to make sure that we are up to speed with them as well. Recently, I had heard that we are moving from a model of management to leadership. So we used to talk about classroom management. Now we're talking about classroom leadership. And how do we do that is making sure that our faculty, and not only our faculty, but our classified professionals, that our students, that we have the resources and the tools to be able to use it effectively. So in other words, if we need to be able to have to change our test questions so that it involves more critical thinking, how can we use AI as a partner in really moving our educational having progress with what we're trying to do with our educational outcomes. So one of the things that I can do there, can I tell you, is very concretely, is that we started working, right now we're doing a book club around AI. We're bringing speakers in. We just at our last board meeting, we brought in faculty members who are leading this work and getting paid to lead this work, to bring other faculty along from peer to peer. And so we are taking on AI as an institution to something to embrace, not be fearful of, demystify it, and making sure our folks have resources. So we have a professional development center called The Edge, where we host all of this stuff. And it's not, again, not just for faculty, it's for all our employees. We have resource centers where folks can go and get information about AI. And it's just part of, it was at our all college day. It's part of the culture now at Palomar College. We're still in the infancy of it, but we are getting there. But the most important thing is that we have to change and help people change their hearts and their minds to see it as value added versus as something that is problematic. The other thing too is that equity has to be embedded within all of this. We know that some of the software that we have there's inherently problematic. So we have to be able to address it as well, because AI can take us to a certain place, but we also have to give our students the benefit of the doubt. We also have to be very careful because we know that sometimes, for example, if you are an ESL student and you produce something, sometimes it'll say that AI produced it, and it has not been produced by AI. The other one I really worry about also is proctoring and the software that's used for proctoring. And some of it has major problems that we have to make sure that those are taken care of, because we can only use this. We have to be careful when we use the software and understand that there's a lot of benefits to AI, but it also needs to develop more so that we are not, let me just say it, we are not accusing our students of cheating when they're not cheating. Because imagine what that does to a first-generation, low-income first-generation students who is walking through our doors, may already have a sense that they don't belong, and the first interaction that they have is, potentially being accused of cheating. So that's a major problem. So yeah, AI is not a bad thing, but we just have to be very careful how we use it.
Okay, I have your next question. Okay. So Moreno Valley College has worked really hard on enrollment. How will you ensure that MVC receives the proper funding for programs that our community needs, and also for them to continue being strengthened and offered while ensuring jobs aren't affected? And if I can just have you hold your mic a little.
Sorry.
So that those
Yes,
in the
got
back
it.
can hear you.
Got it. Well, first of all, congratulations on your enrollment. It looks like you have been doing a lot of work. The fact that you have to make sure that the facilities and the support services are in place to be able to deal with the growth in enrollment, I think that's really important. I also commend you for the work that you've done to make sure that the enrollment increases are not fraudulent. We know that up and down the state, we're all struggling with that. So the fact that you guys are, you folks are in that space to be able to do that. I also think it really speaks highly when you're looking at not only your enrollment increases, but your efficiency rates and the programs that you have, I think are impressive. I'm so happy about the bond. Super happy about the bond, and also what the plan is for you to do and what to do with your facilities, because as you grow those facilities, it's really going to help impact that. So I think you guys are on a great trajectory when it comes to enrollment, because I've been looking at your trends. So whatever you're doing is working. So I think part of it is when we find something that works, we need to continue to invest in that. And we know that enrollment is critical. And so I would say really having a sense of what Moreno Valley is doing, who your community is, continuing to invest in those ways. But I'm telling you, the facilities, I think, is going to make a big difference because when students come and they see the facilities around them, they feel valued and is where they want to be. But I will say the program that you already have, particularly your safety programs, I think are a big draw. I have a fire academy, I have a police academy, I have nursing. My first responder programs, my paramedics, EMT programs tend to draw quite a bit. And also I think it gives you a real clear footing on what you are able to offer.
Okay, thank you. I have your next question. So workforce development and career education is essential across the district. Can you discuss your approach to building relationships with community organizations and local businesses and industry representatives in order to connect students to meaningful careers?
I tell folks that is the most important part of my job, is to be out in the community, to make sure that people understand what we're able to offer and how we're able to offer it as well. I always am surprised that there's still a lot of ideas that the community college system, our local community college is defined about the community colleges 30 years ago. But I think when you come to our institutions and you see the facilities, one of the things that I do, I'm very intentional about being in the community. You'll see that I use social media also to really promote, to market what it is that we do. I never turn down an opportunity to go speak to a community group that's big or small, right? Doesn't matter the size, because those are the places that you're able to connect and really know what the community wants. But I think it's not just about going out to the community, it's about bringing the community in. So for me, I serve on certain boards, but I will tell you, local business is really what I'm trying to work with. I'll give you an example. Palomar didn't have a bachelor's degree program, so we now have our first bachelor's degree program in sustainability. And so one of the things about that is that I placed it in a center that needed a little help with enrollment. And what I ended up doing is working with the communities around there and the companies around there, letting them know about our new bachelor's degree program. There's an architectural component to it. So I'm working within that community, going to the different businesses as such, so much so that now it's a little premature, but we're looking at an apprenticeship. So students can come and get their bachelor's degree while doing an apprenticeship and getting paid for that as they're going through their schooling. So now, folks are walking out with even less debt. But the most important part of that is that I needed to bring community members in so that they only could see our facilities, could see our programming, meet our faculty. And I'm going to tell you, so many people are so surprised because they're still thinking about their grandmother's community college. They have no idea what it is that we're doing now. So the fact that I get to spread the good news and talk about it being free, I think is really, really important. And workforce is where it's at. One of the things that we're really looking at right now is that we're seeing students come in to work on a certificate, right, to work on an associate's degree, get out into the workforce. Like our welding students, they're getting picked up, right? In fact, we're having to have conversations with the companies that we're working with, and we have these gentleman, gentlewoman agreements about let's let them finish before you bring them on, or can we do an apprenticeship in some way? Because students, are wanting to work and make a living. But one of the things that we're seeing is that when people are completing those certificates, they're out in the workforce, they're coming back. They're coming back to say, okay, what's my next step? So I think that's really important to have step-up programs because there are some students that, may not be able to devote, a straight 2-4 years. But if we have step-up programs, we're just seeing these students that are going out into the workforce and then coming back. The other thing too, that I've worked with faculty and our employees and curriculum and so forth, is really making sure that we are creating degrees that have livable wages attached to it. So in our county, the cost of housing, it's exponentially going up. And so much so that where we are, folks are having to move out of the area because they can't afford to live there. So what we're doing is we're being very strategic about what programs we're offering so that when folks get out of there, they can have a livable wage so that they can stay in the community and give back to the community.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to the next question. How would you support public safety and police with its mission to keep students, classified professionals, and faculty safe?
I'm a big believer in community policing, where policing is part of the work that we're trying to do to keep folks safe. But the approach to it is where we are creating a community of safety for all. So part of that is making sure that our police force is reflective of the community that we serve. So for example, right now with Palomar, we're doing 30 by 30, which is being very intentional of what officers that we hire and making sure that we have female officers come on board. So I've worked in districts where you have diverse police officers and it works very, very well. So I think one of the first things I wanted to do is when I got to Palomar is make sure that we had no women on the force. And so we are slowly moving in that area, but making a public commitment by signing up to the 30 by 30. I also think that the training, the police officer training, is extremely important. And what I love about this community policing idea is that we're not only using it with our police force, but we're using it in our criminal justice programs as well. So it becomes also, part of the culture and in our police academy too. So what's really beautiful about that is that everybody's working in unison, making sure that we're not criminalizing poverty and that we are here as a resource to help instead of seeing safety as something separate. Safety is everybody's responsibility. So one of the things too is, for example, we needed an updated emergency plan. So we got that going pretty quickly. And again, safety has different elements to it, and our police force is one element to it.
Okay, thank you. So our next question is, from a facilities perspective, can you detail a paramount challenge you faced on a particular project? How did you manage it, and how would you support facilities expansion in a multi-college district?
Okay, so when I got to Palomar College, there had been a bond that had been passed 20 years earlier, and it was not completed. And as you know, every day that passes, your buildings get smaller and the power of your dollar gets smaller. I did show up at Palomar during COVID, which was not helpful, and just the escalation cost. So it got to a point where I have been very, very intentional about getting projects over the line. We got to get them done. We have to get them finished, have a timeline, what it is. And so since I've been there, we just did a topping off ceremony for our Fall Book Center, but I think it's 4 major projects that I got done, and I have 1.5 left because we need to close out that bond in order to make it happen. The other part of it too is there were lawsuits in some other areas. There was a lot of problems with that particular bond. So one of the first things I knew I needed to get these projects done, but I also needed to address some of the legal issues that were pending, was able to close those out successfully. And so the other part of it too is that one was to finish out the bond, get that bond taken care of. The second part was trying to prepare for a new bond, looking at the future. But the third part of it was dealing with the existing facilities that we have. So Palomar is a tale of two cities. We have the new facilities and we have some old facilities. And when I say old facilities, some modulars that were 1962, I think was one of the buildings was in 1962. And how do you address that, right? Because it is a tale of two campuses in some way. And we had education centers also that needed facilities. So one of the things that we started doing is seeing what funds we did have. So for example, we had redevelopment funds that were just kind of sitting there. So we leveraged those funds in order to get some of these projects over the line and also for them to be matching when we're asking for the state for money. So part of it is, I think it's a balancing act of dealing with your older facilities and at the same time having a plan moving forward. So I just recently finished out, our campus finished out what's called our Educational and Facilities Vision Plan. So what we ended up doing is saying, okay, where do we want to be 12 years when it comes to curriculum, when it comes to the programs that we're providing? And talk about having the community. We had 63 listening sessions. And we invited community members and folks to come because we knew that the stakeholders had to have a voice. So that was the educational component, but then it was the facilities component. So if you're going to grow, then how are you going to sustain that growth and what facilities do you need? So yeah, we did a whole facilities plan. We looked at usage as well, because part of it too was looking at how can we use this existing space? How is it being utilized? And how can we leverage it? And it wasn't just about instruction, it was about student services. So at where we are at Palomar, so I have a Dreamer Center. We didn't have a Dreamer Center. We got the Dreamer Center taken care of. Our Pride Center, it just gone through a whole revamp. And we created a Cariño Dream Village, which is part Umoja, so space for Umoja, because we also knew that we needed to create spaces for our students to feel comfortable. And I'll stop there because I can go on a long time with facilities.
Well, actually, our next question is along the lines of the same topic, so we'll let you go on. So the question asks, with the current economic climate and in light of the bond recently passed, can you speak to the institution's financial literacy and stability?
So one of the things that I think was really important that I learned was our internal stakeholders really saw facilities as something separate. And in some ways, they were expecting for administration to say what was going to happen with facilities. I would say, particularly where you are at this point in time, getting the voice of those individuals who are going to live in those buildings, who are going to utilize those buildings is paramount. One of the things that you'll recognize in me about leadership is that I'm constantly analyzing along the way. And if we've taken a misstep, recognizing the misstep, owning the misstep, and redirecting, because it's not about being right, it's about what is right. And as such, when it comes to the facilities component, you really, really have to understand who it is that you're serving and why. So an example I can give you is that, you know, pre-pandemic, distance ed had a footprint, but post-pandemic, 38% of our courses right now are distance ed, are offered in a different modality. So the facilities you need for that are also different. So remember that 12-year plan that I'm talking about? Okay, so there's a plan, which is great because it's a roadmap for us, but we have to be ready to pivot. A concrete example I can give you is right now I'm looking at Zoom pods. What's a Zoom pod, right? So they're actually, they're very similar to, have you seen the pods with for breastfeeding, right? It's very similar to that because we had students, we saw what time our Learning Resource Center closed, right? And it was closing before classes were finishing. So we had a situation, right, where we had students standing outside of the LRC trying to still stay connected to the Wi-Fi so that they could do their class out in the cold, out in the rain, all of those things. So one of the things is that now we're looking into these Zoom pods, which are really, really cool, where you can still have the privacy, you can go in there, they're safe, but you can finish the classes, because we have to not just make assumptions that our students have the technology or the space to be successful. So again, it's something that's very dynamic, and I think you always have to be willing to shift when it comes to that.
Okay, thank you. So also similar along the same lines, this is a two-part question.
Okay.
So the first question is, how do you plan to utilize the budget allocation model to ensure effective resource allocation across the district? Second question is, what strategies would you implement to address competing needs within the budget?
So budget allocations is something that I am very, very familiar with. We have a budget committee that helps inform the decisions that we make. Our budget committee is chaired by our CBO, or our financial person. But recently it was also chaired by our classified Senate president. And right now it's being co-chaired by one of our economics professors. I think what's really beautiful about that model is that you have different stakeholders at the table having the discussion. They meet twice a month. And again, it's budget for us, and budget development is not a one-time during the year. It's an ongoing process. And what our goal again is to inform everybody so everybody has the same information. One of the problems that when I got to Palomar is that there was some mistrust when it came to the budget, because what would happen is that there would be some messaging that we would not be able to, that we were going to have a deficit. But what was happening is at the end of the year, we always had a surplus. So there was this mistrust that somehow the district was not being transparent with the budget or the budget process. So we have been working on that. I've been there for 4.5 years. We've been working on that. We still continue to work on it. It's ongoing, but it's the communication piece that I think is really important, the transparency piece. When we talk about budget, we're doing it in open meetings as well. We record the meetings, we invite everybody else. Sometimes we have town halls when it comes to the budget, because so everybody understands exactly what it is and how the money is being used. So not everybody always agrees. And I think that's the second part, is like the competing resources. At some point in time, we look for the win-win, and we try to get there. But at the same time, what we try to do, what is prioritize, what is the best for the institution, always keeping student services and really keeping students at the center of those decisions, because we know that enrollment, in order for, it's just not about enrollment, it's about successful completion, right? That's our funding formula. It's not just about having students come, but have them complete successfully. So we prioritize anything that's a direct service for students and the good of the institution. But I would say transparency is really, really important in that process, demystifying the process. And the one area that I'm working in right now has to do with hiring and prioritization of hiring and how we use those funds. And again, we don't always agree, but if at least I can explain what the reasoning was behind it. And then also, because we prioritize, we try to be very public with that prioritization, so folks don't feel like they made a request and it's just kind of gone into a black hole of some sort, that, there is some explanation. And we use different categories. And of course, it is just something that is ongoing. I would say enrollment and budget finance is critical for all folks to be at the table and have a say in it, even though ultimately it may not be exactly what everybody wants, but we do try to give something to everybody. But prioritization that's not done in a vacuum, I would say, is the most critical piece.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Starr. Okay, our next question is also a two-part question along the same lines. So, as our new Deputy Chancellor Provost, what ways do you plan to bring value to the district in the first 6 months? The second part is, how do you envision strengthening relationships between the district and the colleges?
So what's very interesting about the first 6 months, right, for me would be to really understand the culture, recognize the culture, really see what's worked very well, right? Not coming in and having an idea of what's not working or assumptions about what's not working, but building on the strengths and really getting an opportunity to have a sense of what each of the colleges offers, an understanding of the people, an understanding of Dr. Isaac, right, and his style and how he works. Really looking at the strategic planning that you've already done. And it's really about listening in that process, gathering the data, making, really getting to know what the district values, understanding who the students are. I think that's important when we talk about the road shows and so forth, getting that student voice. One of the things I'm really excited about is that later on today, I think my last meeting is with students. And when I saw that on the schedule, it said to me, okay, there's a value here for students. So that's what I would say for the first 6 months. Of course, if there's anything that I see that could be an area of an area that would take little effort for great outcome, it would be definitely something that I would want to speak to folks about, the chancellor as well, and see where that is in alignment with it. But I think there's a lot of value to listening. I'm not afraid to make decisions when decisions need to be made, but one thing that you'll learn about my style is I take information in, I process information, I'm very critical, and I consult with folks. And so I do that before I move forward with it. So I feel like I answered the first part of the question, but the second part,
Sure. So the second part of the question was, how do you envision strengthening relationships between the district and the colleges?
yeah, I think part of it is having a presence at the college, right? A presence at the college, really understanding, working with the presidents at the college. And again, what I found to be most successful is the action of being at the institution and really understanding the community that it serves.
Okay, thank you. So I have a good question here. You
Okay.
ready? Okay, so can you speak to your relationship with the district's various unions? How do you maintain and nurture a positive relationship with them, particularly during contract negotiations and financial challenging times?
So I love unions. I'm a union girl. I have benefited from the unions. There have been times where the unions came through for me when I belonged to the unions. I think I think unions are such a valuable asset. And because I see unions in that way, I think that's why we have very good relationships, because we understand that there's a role for them and there's a role for the district. And if at the end of the day, we are worried about student success, I know that we can find those places that we come together. So one of the things that I think, if you ask whether it was in San Diego or at Palomar, I think what they will tell you is that when I say that I value the unions, it is not lip service, but my actions have been consistent with it. If you used AI and you said, what have been the gains for the unions at Palomar College for the past 4.5 years, you are going to get a list of all the things that we are able to do to come together and work together. Very proud of the COLA that our folks have gotten, very proud of the MOUs that we've done over the last 4.5 years, like telecommute policies, where we were able to come together and find a way forward. And the beauty about that too is that when I first got to Palomar, it was in, let me just put it this way. When I got to Palomar College, there was a fiscal monitor from the state chancellor's office. There was a deficit, there was very little reserves. Accreditation, ACCJC had Palomar designated as at risk FICMAT, the fiscal crisis management folks had come out, found, you know, a bunch of issues and problems. So that's when I got there about 4.5 years ago. It is a completely different story today. Within the first year, I was able to remove the fiscal monitor. I was able to get our reserves up so much so that we have it different in board policies. It used to be less than 4%. So now our board policy says that we have to have 16.67% in our reserves. I have reserves above reserves in order to be able to get us through the funding floor over the next 3 years. So I point that out because we were able to fiscally get into a very responsible, strong place while still doing right by our employees. So two things can exist at the same time. And I think that took a lot of collaboration and working together. And, you know, we had this thing called #Team Palomar, right? Talking about we're always on the same team. Another area that I'm really proud when it comes to the work that we've done with unions is part-time parity, making sure that our part-time faculty members are valued and have a lot of the same privileges that our full-time tenured faculty folks do. So I'm really big into this idea of one faculty, whether you are a tenured faculty or a part-time faculty, the value that you bring, considering it's our part-time faculty that are interfacing with the majority of our students. I think that's really important. So I believe that you can be fiscally responsible at the same time, making sure that the working conditions for your employees are properly in place, because again, we know that working conditions equal learning conditions for our students. So yes, I'm a big union person, win-win, and I'm a counselor by trade. That's my background. I tell everybody I'm a counselor that plays administrator, right? Because I'm very focused in finding a way forward. And I think that's what people will tell you about there. And I'm not going to tell you, there are times that we disagree, right? We're definitely times that we disagree, but there's a mutual respect and trust that is happening and that's been built. And I would want to do that here the same way, because we're all in this to make sure that our students are succeeding.
Thank you, Dr. Starr. So at this time, that does conclude the questions that the college community has for you. We'd like to invite you to just provide some brief closing remarks to close our session.
You know, I just really want to thank you. And I will tell you, I'm known as the bee lady. And I'm going to tell you why I'm known as the bee lady. But I'll leave this with you because I think it really speaks to how I view this work, how I view my leadership and what it is that I do. So quick story. I promise it'll be very, very quick. So in a beehive, the queen bee is one of the most important components of that beehive. The well-being of that beehive depends on that one queen bee. If that queen bee dies, something extraordinary happens in nature. When the queen bee dies, what happens is that they will start to take, the other bees will start to take royal jelly, a specific substance, and start to feed it to common larvae. And what ends up happening is that larvae turn into queen bees that then reestablish the hive and it moves on. Follow me, I'm still here. That is what these institutions are. Educators. We are the royal jelly for students that in life circumstances may have not gotten that. But when they come to our community colleges, this is where they're going to get that royal jelly. This is where they're going to be kings and queens to go out and really make a difference, a positive difference in the world. When you think of it in those terms and the responsibility that we have at the community college system, where we take 100% of everybody, this is the first chance and sometimes the last chance for folks. So if we can be a district that is strong to support those students, for them to move on, then we have done our job. We have a very huge responsibility. And I just want to say thank you for the work that you do on a daily basis. Thank you for who you are and what you devoted your life work to. And on that note, thank you. And I'm done.
Thank you, Dr. Starr. And thank you all for joining us today and for your thoughtful engagement. Many, many good questions. As a reminder, your feedback is an essential part of this process. Following today's sessions, you will have the opportunity to share your impressions of the candidate through the district's feedback form. Please take a few moments to complete it if you haven't already. Your input will be carefully reviewed by the chancellor as he conducts his final interviews. On behalf of the search committee and the chancellor's office, I want to thank you again for your participation and for contributing. That concludes today's forum. Thank you once again.
Great job. Good job. I see you shut down the stream here, so.
Yes.